All right, perfect. So, definitions to remember: malware, phishing, virus, and ransomware. We've all heard those before. So, malware is if you click on a link in an attachment and you happen to get malware downloaded to your computer, malware is more or less to disrupt your system. Now, some of you may be thinking, oh no, I have malware. My computer's slow and really bad. It's probably just because it's 10 or 12 years old. So please don't jump up and down saying, oh no, I have malware. But malware is typically installed silently in the background. It can disrupt your computer by stealing information, sending your data overseas. It can do a lot of things. Malware is just a generic term for, the overall bad stuff that hits your computer. Phishing. Phishing, that's when the cyber criminals phish. You guys have all know what phishing is. You take the rod, you throw the sinker in, you hope to catch something. That's what they're doing when they send these emails out. When they send out 5,000 emails, or if they're targeting Schmidt Real Estate and they happen to send it to all of our people based on a company directory or just by browsing our offices online. Phishing is just shooting it out there in hopes to catch something. They're going to send out those emails to you, and the ones who click on those attachments or the people who reply back to those emails, those are the ones that they say, oh, I've hooked them. Now they just have to reel you in and get you the rest of the way by either continuously tricking you or, for instance, if, I was trying to scam Brenda, and I sent Brenda a malicious email, and Brenda ignored that email, I would see that she never opened it and never clicked on anything. So that would be it. I wouldn't continuously go after Brenda. But then we have Kelly. If Kelly happens to click on that email or, click on that PDF attachment that looked a little sketchy, or click on that link, obviously I'm going to know she clicked on that link because of the tracking tools. I mean, we offer those tools for agents for marketing purposes. So, the scammers have the ability to see if you clicked a link. Once you've clicked on that link, then they know, then they can attack you further. They know that you've clicked the link, and then they're going to send another email with another attachment. Or if let's say you replied to that scammer, then they know your phone number, they know your signature line from your email address, then they can very easily call you and say, I'm so-and-so, and try to manipulate you even more. So be cautious. Viruses. Viruses are more or less there to infect your system and damage your computer. It will slow you down. It will delete your system files. It will make your device basically unusable. A virus is more to torment and harm. Malware is more to steal information and gather information. Which brings us to the last big one, is ransomware. It's not something, knock on wood, we've experienced too much here. But ransomware can take a computer and fully lock you out of it. It can lock myself, it can lock you guys, it can steal all your information, and it can hijack basically everything on your computer for a ransom. Somebody will contact somebody and say, I want, $50,000 to release your computer. So, it is something to be cautious of, and ransomware does come in the form of a virus. It's just a specific type of activity, but it's the same. It does the same thing in the background. Things you can do to protect yourself: strong, complex passwords and two-factor authentication. That's pretty much a standard for the company. I think for most of our accounts, two factors pretty much standard. I don't know. I don't operate on each region what all you guys have, but if you have the ability to set up a two-factor code where it sends you that code to your phone or to an email address, please sign up for that. The next time you go to sign in, it may not ask you for two-factor if you already have two-factor set up and it remembers your device. So a lot of times you only have to enter your two-factor code maybe once every week or two. So it's not too horrible for most sites. Pass keys. It's something that we've talked about in the past, and you guys have seen it when logging into websites. A lot of times it will ask you, do you want to sign in with a pass key? That can be a little confusing at times depending on which service that you use. But for instance, if you were going to Walmart.com and you wanted to sign in to their website on your work computer, it's going to ask you if you want to sign in with the pass key or a passcode. Now, if in the past you've set up a pass key already for Walmart.com on your phone, that phone doesn't transfer that pass key to the computer that allows you to sign in. So you would have to use that device that was pre-registered with a pass key to continue to use that pass key on there. So if you were trying to go to Walmart.com, you'd have to enter your password on the computer, but you could use the pass key that's stored on your phone. You can always enter the pass key for Walmart.com and register your computer for it. And when you do that, it uses your device's password and encryption. So basically, instead of just a passcode that I could give to Patty in Cedarville, and then she could just instantly log into my account, if I did a pass key, she would have to have a physical software file, just a tiny little file that has an encryption key that basically says that the device is authorized to sign into that account if that device is signed in, basically. So on your phone, you have to use biometrics to utilize pass keys. If you happen to set up a pass key for your work computer or your home laptop for a website, you would have to use the password that you use to enter that computer. So if it's a Windows computer, that first password screen that comes up, that's the password you're going to have to use to sign into a website. So that's kind of what passkeys is doing. It allows you to authenticate on your physical device that you're on, and it gives that permission to that site, and then they have that handshake. So the passkey isn't anything that you can remember per se, Brenda. A passkey is a physical software token that allows access to the site. The passkey itself is the file. The password is whatever password you use for the device or whatever biometrics or credentials that you use. So, but you saying if you can't remember the passkey is like saying, your phone can't remember your Face ID or your face. It's your phone's using your face. It says this person or this person's good to use these passkeys. And then it just gives that credential to the site and it instantly logs you in. So ultimately, it's pretty good, and it is going to be the future. A lot of companies, including Microsoft, is eliminating the ability to get two-factor codes sent to your phone number. They've pretty much stopped that and are requiring pass keys for any new Microsoft accounts moving forward. So, and then obviously updates and antivirus. If you don't have an antivirus, and for the company computers, we're going to protect those, but more or less for personal devices. But yeah, updates and antivirus, very important. What can agents do if they get a suspicious lead? That's the number one question I've been getting. I can't speak for you guys, but usually when I talk to agents, 8 out of 10 times, they say, I got a sketchy email and I don't know if I should reach out to them. There's some tools available, reverse phone number and email lookup tools. There's some different ones online. You can, ask those qualifying questions. Ask them if they have pre-approval, and just keep an eye for those red flags. I had an agent reach out just 2 days ago and said, I had a lead come in and I don't know if it's legit or not. I've dealt with this person in the past, but it's a different email. And I said, I can't speak for sure if that is a legitimate email address. I don't know everyone's email, and you can create 1 million of them for free. So the biggest thing to do is, reach out to that person using another known contact number, using a phone number. If you know one of their business colleagues, reach out to them, see if you can get in touch with them, see if you can find their information publicly online. Search their name and see if the email address or phone number matches the information in that lead. Even if it is a legit email account that, an agent corresponded with for 5 years and you've had every, daily correspondence with this person, there's nothing to say that that person's email couldn't have been compromised yesterday and now scammers are reaching out to you today. So even if you do a reverse phone number and email lookup, or I should say a reverse email, um, it could be legit, but it doesn't necessarily tell you that that person is the one who sent that email and they are the one that you're corresponding with. That's where it may take a phone call. Um, and if you can't reach out via a phone call, you're uncomfortable with an email, that's when you should probably shut it down. Um, but it can be, difficult. Some inexperienced agents can always reach out to a broker, a manager, a staff member. The best thing is just an experienced agent, somebody who's been around for 10, 15, 20 years. They've seen those leads come in. They know some of those red flags, and, agents see those leads more than I do. People call me and say, is this legit? And I can say, based on my criteria that I use, but I'm always going to err on the side of caution, because that's the world we live in now. And I'm always on the cautious side of things. So I'm always going to err on the side of caution and say, be cautious, maybe not reach out to them if you're not comfortable. Because if you're questioning it, I'm definitely going to be questioning it. So, hey, Patty.
We have a few agents here. They use the, I guess, app or website for Verify to verify their clients.
Yeah, there's a lot of websites. I know Carrie can probably chime in. I think we have Forewarn.
Okay.
That there's a solution that the company can offer or provide some type of solution for that. There's been verified. There's a lot of sites out there. And for instance, if you looked at my email, paul@schmidthq.com, that's a legit email. It's going to come back as verified. But that's not saying I'm the one who sent that email. If my account was compromised, you could be speaking to somebody in China or India or the Philippines, for all you know. You don't know that email, necessarily, it's a legit email, but you don't know who you're corresponding with. So that's the caution that you have to be very cautious with. So, all right. Tips to stay safe. Check the sender's email. Avoid clicking on links and attachments. Don't get that email, instantly click that link and say, oh, no, I shouldn't have done that. Take that extra second right before you click to say, should I click on that? Use password managers, two-factor authentication, and just basically be safe, be cautious, and don't trust anything online. That's kind of my mentality and attitude. Use everything with caution. Don't trust anything, and just, utilize the internet as a resource. It's becoming somewhat more of a cesspool with all the bad stuff and bad actors, but there's still a lot of good out there and a lot of good resources and tools online. So just be cautious. All right. And that about wraps it up. Perfect timing. Any more questions, concerns, experiences you want to share? Anything you've come across recently that seems a little odd or different, or something you haven't seen before, a new scam? Anything? No scams, nothing going on. All right. All right. Well, let's keep it safe out there. Please. Oh, go ahead, Brenda.
Gotcha. I've been getting, this is an email on my phone though. I get a lot of calls.
Yeah.
That are not calls I should be getting about, oh, your loan's approved and you can have this and have that. And for a while I was marking them as spam and then blocking them. But somebody just recently told me don't mark them as spam, because then they know that it's a legitimate phone number and they'll keep coming after you. So now I just block them and delete them, but I don't, is that correct? Is it not a good idea?
Based on experience, when you mark them as spam, the spam goes to the carrier. They can't see what the carrier sees, and the spam report goes to the carrier. That's why we have those text messaging constraints where we're only allowed to send text messages from so many batches of numbers. Like right now, we're limited to how many people that can in the company can send text messages out. That's because the carriers handle the blocking of that. So when you report a text message as spam or a call as spam, that goes to the carrier. If the carrier gets too many reports of text messages being sent from that number to people and too many people have marked it as spam, the carrier themselves will block that entire chunk of numbers, whether 50 numbers or however many. They can block the scammers' entirety of their VoIP number system. That's how they're getting away with it. They're not signing up with an AT&T line and having a hard-wired, line run for an RJ11 jack to answer a physical phone. They're using computer-based internet fake phone numbers. So they can come up with new ones as fast as we can block them, basically. But once one number gets blocked, the whole batch gets shut down. So that only goes to the carrier. Now, if you block the person, then if they try to call you, it's just going to go to a dead, it's not going to ring, or it's going to say, this number's been blocked. So it's the blocking itself that lets them know that you've blocked them, but it's the reporting as spam that lets the carriers know that this person needs to have their text messaging abilities revoked for that whole bunch of numbers, basically.
So it is a good idea to report them as spam, then, it sounds like.
I always do.
Okay.
Because it's the reporting of the spam that gets them shut down by the
Okay.
carriers. By AT&T, Ring Central, Verizon, all the major carriers will do that, and they handle that now.
So should I just do the opposite then? Report them as spam but not block them?
Technically, then they can still call back, but then they won't think that you're legit, potentially. Or they may not care, and they may just always keep sending it down that phone number because it doesn't cost them really anything. So it's a catch-22 there. All right, Reese, I'll stay on with you. All right, guys. Well, stay safe out there. Use caution. Pass this information on to your agents. Bring it up at your meetings, and just